Hello and welcome back to Grant Writing Made Clear. I hope you're ready for more because today we're diving into part two of my incredible conversation with Dr. Rachel Goode. If you haven't listened to part one yet, I highly recommend that you go back to last week's episode first. It is a conversation that I just cannot explain. I mean, it's truly full of foundational tips for writing winning grant proposals. So if you haven't listened to part one, I recommend that you start with part one and then come back to this episode and listen to it second. In today's episode, we pick right up where we left off. Dr. Rachel shares even more advice on standing out in the competitive world of grant writing. And we talk about common mistakes that people make. And you know me, I love to talk about self care. So we talk about the importance of self care throughout the grant writing process. You will not want to miss a single second of this conversation. So grab your notebook, your favorite pen, and let's get into it. Welcome to Grant Writing Made Clear. The truth is, the grant writing process isn't always clear, but with the right guidance, proven actionable strategies, and expert insights, the process becomes easier, simpler, and yes, clearer. I am Dr. Trinette, your host of Grant Writing Made Clear, and a former nonprofit president turned distinguished professor and behavioral scientist with 2 decades of grant writing experience. I remember what it was like to be a busy nonprofit leader with little time but big financial sustainability concerns. Over the years, I have transformed my skills from securing $1,000 foundation grants to winning multi-million-dollar federal grants. I created this podcast in response to the grant writing coaching requests I've received from nonprofit leaders, entrepreneurs, and professors over the years. Join me each week as I reveal insider strategies and share key lessons that turn wishful thinking into winning applications. Pull up a seat and get ready to be inspired, empowered, and transformed. Whether you're a beginner or a pro looking to sharpen your skills and create a life you love, you're in the right place, my friend. Let's get started. Curious if you have any thoughts about common mistakes that people make in grant proposals. You have any thoughts about that?
Okay, I do because I'm trying to think. Common mistakes. I think a small one, but big one is like I have learned to go back to the funding announcement and really read that thing and really try to weave in some of the language
Mm,
sometimes
mm-hmm,
from the funding announcement. It's
mm-hmm,
small,
mm-hmm,
small little thing,
mm-hmm.
but I have found it can just to sell it.
Yes.
Sometimes I think people assume like you need to spell it out. Like these reviewers, when they're reading your grant, I have found sometimes I got to lead them to the water. Like I got
Yes.
to be clear. And so I
Yes.
think one mistake I find is sometimes we assume we are clear and it might be clear, but for someone who doesn't know your work, you need to make it clear. Like you need to
Yes.
just spell it out for them and
Mm-hmm,
tell them why why this proposal is going to meet the requirements of this,
mm-hmm,
this, this. Make
mm-hmm,
it easy for
mm-hmm,
them.
mm-hmm,
Um, I found sometimes I struggled to do that. I just was maybe a little too verbose
mm-hmm,
with
mm-hmm.
my
I
writing
think that's a
and
lot
not
of us. Yes.
yeah, just make it plain. Just
Mm-hmm.
make it plain, make it easy for them. I have found, I think another mistake is it takes some humility to, like, I remember some of I would get recommendations about using there's a certain format I think that they encourage sometimes, especially for NIH grants. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a format and I think sometimes my first instinct was I don't know, I didn't want to use the format. Like I wanted to stay outside and maybe over evaluate. I'm a good writer, like over evaluate maybe
Mm-hmm.
my ego.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it would get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And it took humility for me to say, you know what? Let me just put my head down and just follow the instructions that they give.
Yes.
and just not just be quiet and just do what they like.
Yes.
That has helped me because
Yes.
I remember for my K award, I I remember when I was in a mentoring program and they said, "Are you all following the instructions?" There's a format. Use the format. And I wasn't. I was doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but especially in a learning, as I was learning to write grants, it was wise to pay attention to people who had done it before because
Yeah.
I still needed support to kind of get my voice down. And sure enough, once I got it in the format, people were like, "Oh, I get what you're saying, or I
Yes.
understand a little bit more," when
Yes.
I thought it was clear, but it really wasn't.
Yes.
And so I think one mistake I think sometimes is there's some pride that some of us have that gets in your way. It
Yes.
gets in your way.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
have to let it go because sometimes it really is holding you back from having a funded grant.
No, that's so true. I mean, I think you are providing so many gems because you're exactly right about all of this. And the humility is a big one. I see, and I try to tell the people I work with, you have to be coachable. You have to be humble.
Mhm.
Having those skills will take you further, I think, than having the big ego, especially prematurely, right? Like, yeah. So I think this is so helpful, helping us to think about using the language in the funding announcement opportunity. Not everyone, I think, is doing that. I do think that's helpful just to make sure that you're aligning it with the RFA or whatever you're responding to. Yeah, these are great, great gems.
I also think looking at past funded grants, like
Mm,
sometimes if you would spend a little bit more time getting a couple examples and really some I don't know. I feel like sometimes we miss those opportunities and trying to get past funded grants. I can think of so many where I had an idea of what I thought it would look like, but when I saw the one that got, a past example, it saved me so much time and it
yes,
usually wasn't what I was thinking. I said,
yes,
"Oh,
yes,
oh, it needs to look like okay."
yes.
Saved me so much time
I
because
agree.
I just made it look the way they like it. And I
Yes,
never would write it. I
yes.
never write and look. I was like, that would be my natural tendency, but that's how you all like it. Okay, I'll make it look just like that.
Yeah.
And
And that's what we get at like some of the unspoken rules,
hmm
right? Of sometimes funders have and reviewers have a particular way of wanting to see something, and you just wouldn't know that except if someone told you.
except
Yeah,
if they told you.
yeah. So
Mm,
it's important to network. It's important, I think, to have coaching and mentorship because these are people who have had the experiences and can share that
yeah,
information with you. Yeah.
yeah, it's so true. I know it's hard because you never know. That's why I had a friend who he talks about just being good to people,
Mm,
like just being kind. Like you
mm.
just never know when you're gonna
Yes,
have to go back and ask them
that's the truth.
for something. And I can think of a time when one of my colleagues asked me to guest speak in her class. And I did it for her for a couple of years. And then she had this assistant, co-teacher, who I honestly never met her, but she was helping me or get arrange for guest speaking. And I was like, okay, we just talked over email. So come to find out this grant opportunity that I had to apply for was short time. She was the one who had gotten the grant
Mm,
2 years ago.
mm.
And they said, you need to reach out to her and see if she'll give you an example of her grant.
Wow.
And I thought at first I didn't realize I knew her, but I put her in the email and I said, "Oh." And she's like, "Oh, Rachel, remember you came to my class." Sent
Yes.
me a grant. I don't think I had to even ask. She sent me a copy.
Wow.
She just sent it over. She's like, "Oh,
Wow.
you're applying here." I know that was because I had
Yes.
come, like I didn't even
Yes.
really, but I thought I didn't even know. Like,
Yeah, it pays to be kind to people.
hmm
It
hmm
does. It does.
always.
How do you maintain momentum during the academic year when you have lots of things happening? You're a professor, so you teach, you do service, you do research as in funded grants, but then you also need to find some time to write grant proposals. How do you keep the momentum going with grant writing when you have so many other things on your plate? I know you're a mom and a wife and so many
Yeah.
other things. How do you keep that momentum going?
Great question. I think I recognize. So one thing I had to learn is my best time for grant writing. Like I had to figure out the time of day that was the best for me and to not give that time away to
Okay.
things because I don't get it back. Like if my window was 9 to noon or before my window, I'm a morning person. I
Mm-hmm.
learned that quickly. My best grant writing is in the morning.
Okay.
After 12, it takes 2 times longer for me to write
Okay.
sentences.
Okay.
My brain doesn't work that way. So I think one thing that has been helpful for me is I've learned morning is my time, my
Okay.
time. And
Okay.
so I try to start with me first, right? If there's something like if I'm working on a grant, and I honestly I've also learned I got this advice from other scholars who have gone before me, these 30-minute windows.
I was going to ask you about
They
that.
help me. That helps
Okay.
me. And
Okay.
I turn on my email in 30 minutes. And you'd be surprised what you can get done in 30 minutes. And sometimes I don't get another window. That's it.
Mm.
I also have a personality that tends to thrive off of a deadline. Like
Okay.
just, I don't know, it's kind of exciting for me. I'm like, okay, I gotta meet this deadline. And when I have something that's pending, I don't know. It makes me excited. Like it's like puzzle pieces. That's how I feel like grant writing is. I'm like, I'm trying to
Okay.
put the puzzle pieces together.
Okay.
That being said, as I have gone in my career, it does get challenging, I think, to balance all the roles. And I have been more challenged at doing that. And so I think I am learning to be more wise with my no's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because the obligations they just continue to come. And sometimes something small, I have found, I remember, it seemed like a small yes. These are not small yeses. Like
Yes. No.
they add up. They
Yes.
add up. And
Yes.
so I've started making a list of my things that are mission critical for me to do. And then the things that are, important, but could wait, and then things that are meaningful but not vital. And then the last category are things that are maybe externally prompted requests and are not important. And so
Wow.
whenever something comes on my desk, I look and put it in the category. And so it really is humbling when you're like, okay, this is not, it's in that last category. It's not a mission critical. Why am I cannot do that. This year is a mission critical. And grant writing for me is mission critical. Like I
Yes.
have to do it. And
Yes.
so it makes it by categorizing, it's helped me be a little bit more uh, like when I have to say no, I know why now. Like it's not because they're not a nice person or it's a great opportunity, but this is not in my mission critical. And I know, and I also know, for example, a yes to a lot of presentations, they are take hours and hours of work.
Yes.
And I had to just kind of go through it a couple times
Yes. Yes. You do have to
to
learn it. Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Okay, if I'm in a grant writing season, I cannot do a lot of these. Like,
Yes.
unless it's prepped, it's ready to go. Like, I cannot. It just takes up
Yes.
much time.
Yes.
So some of it is again just learning through going through it. Sometimes it just helps to have a deadline that I just have to get it done. And then I think sometimes I'm just having to learn to keep the things that are critical
Mm-hmm.
first
Mm-hmm.
because nothing else gets done if
Yeah.
it matters too much. So
And so I'm really intrigued about how you organize these categories of things that are most, I guess, what do you describe it as?
mission critical.
Mission
Yes.
critical. Now, do you use these categories as a way to determine whether you say yes to something or no to something? Or do you actually create a list on a piece of paper or in an app and organize your week that way? Like, how do you use these categories?
Sure. These are the things that to say yes and whether I delegate, whether I could have a team member who can support me because sometimes we're just taking on too many things.
Yes, we are. Hmm.
And there's a leadership podcast I listened to where the head of the podcast was sharing that if someone else can do it 60% as well as you need to
I
delegate that
like
thing.
it. I like it.
I'm learning.
Yes,
So that has helped me. And it's because sometimes we're just holding on to too much.
yes,
I have learned to give it to other people. And no, it may not be exactly how I want it. It's 60% as
yes.
well as I would like it, but they're being mentored into the role. And I'm freed up to do some things that matter. Just the
Yes.
other day, I felt like I did one of those, and I remember being like, "Oh, it wasn't quite what I wanted it to be," but I was freed up to go have an important, conversation that I needed to have because they
Yes.
took that responsibility. So
Yes.
fine, it was fine,
That's
and I
good.
got to do my mission critical thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
so it was okay. So yeah, so mostly it helps me to organize, help me say yes to things, plan
Yes.
out my week for sure, because
Yes.
there are certain obligations that when it comes in, I know isn't, I already know now that's in the last category.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you saying yes to that, Rachel? Good. That's a
Good.
no. You have to say no. Just
Good.
go ahead and tell them no right now and
Yes.
give somebody else an opportunity. That's another thing.
Yes.
Sometimes you think, oh, but you get to then recommend, hey, have you talked to my
Yes.
colleague so and so?
Yes.
Like they'll be honored to try
Yes.
such and such. And
Yes.
that's a great thing, right?
Yes.
So yeah.
No, I agree. I've started to do that more and more. People ask me to come and present, and I'll say, I'm not available, but I really recommend this person. And so you're exactly right. Saying no helps you to say yes to things that you really need to say yes to. But it can also, if you're recommending others, it can also give them an opportunity to grow and develop. And we want to
Yeah,
do that as well. Hmm.
want to do it. I think when I have something pending, and I know I need to work on it. What I do try to do is every week, I will pull out a list. I'll make a table of all the things that are due for that particular project.
Hmm. Hmm.
This fall, I had to do that. And because there were so many pieces. And so I make a list of everything that's due. And then on my 30-minute window, I'll say, okay, which one do I have the energy to work on right now?
Yes.
And I try to make a little progress on it. And then I get to
Yes.
cross it out and put an update, and I don't know, I get excited about it. I'm like, yes, I made a little progress today. And so, and I don't know, 30 minutes, it feels like almost something so small that it almost energizes you to say, I can go another 30 minutes. Like that wasn't that bad, especially if you cut out your email,
Yes.
that part. Cut your email, say, you know what? I'm going to do me first. I've started recently waiting to check my email until a little later in the morning, maybe 1 to 2 hours into my
Interesting.
morning.
Okay.
And I've never done that before, but what I have found is that can I tell you how much focus those first 2 hours of my day
Wow.
are, because I'm not letting someone else decide my priority or my responsibility. I
Yes.
decided this is my
Yes.
priority right now, and I'm
Yes.
going to do this, and I will deal with that. But
Yes.
whenever I would get an email, I turn to whatever the request is, and I'm
Guilty.
all distracted. But it has
Yes.
helped me
I
be a little.
love that. I think I'm
Yeah.
gonna try that. I love that one. Yeah.
It's hard, but I can see the benefit of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that really, I can imagine, helps you to align with the mission critical work, making sure that gets
it
done first.
does.
Yeah.
It
Yeah. Yeah.
does for sure. Yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah, because I have done that, right? I have taken my steps forward. So it's
Yes.
good. Hmm.
Okay. Now, just a few more questions. We're about to
Oh,
wrap
sure.
up. What are your top three tips for new grant writers?
Get an example. One of my top tips is find an example of the funded grant that you are interested in applying for.
Okay.
Find an example. Get a
Mhm.
couple examples. Start with the example so you see what it looks like of someone who got it funded. An abstract, something as much as you can get to see, I would say, find an example. Another tip I would say is, again, if you are a person of faith, I would just take some time and sit quietly and think about why you're applying for this grant.
Mhm.
What's your motivations? And and don't be afraid to just try it. Just move
Mhm.
forward, even
Yes.
if you don't get it. Again, it's valuable. Just go through the process. Ask, just take the chance. Send the email. Do not assume they're going to say no.
Yes.
Just if they come to your mind and you think they might be able to help me, reach out. Just
Yes.
try it. Just try it. You just never know. And then I think I would say don't, if you find out the style and the format they like, your grant funder likes their grants to look,
Hmm.
propose a project, try to put it in the box they like getting things in.
Yes.
Like put it in the package they like to see things in.
Yes.
Often you can still do your idea, it just needs to be shaped a certain way.
Hmm.
And I think you'll save so much time by really knowing what the funder, what they like to fund.
Hmm.
You will see like,
Hmm.
okay, it needs to look like this. And don't be afraid. I have really found, I remember from my first, my F, I saw they do all these interventions and they look the same way.
Yeah.
All these interventions, I always had a certain qualitative aim, and then they had the feasibility study. It was always the
Yes.
same thing.
Yes.
So how am I gonna go and try to do it different?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yours are going to have that same thing.
Yes.
And it helped. And I didn't have a lot of support then. It was just me and my mentor, but I remember looking at how they did it and I said, "Okay, I'm going to do mine the same way."
Yes.
I think it helped me, go a little further. So,
That is amazing. I think it's going to help someone who's listening today. That was great. And then one of my last questions is, how do you take care of yourself during busy grant writing seasons? I'm in the middle of a very busy grant writing season, and it's just one grant proposal after the next in
mhm.
this particular season for me. How do you take care of yourself?
I have learned, with the mom and wife, I have learned my mornings are my time.
Okay.
So that means if I'm gonna have it, I gotta go to bed earlier.
Okay.
I gotta get up early. So
Okay.
I started getting up at 5.
Wow.
I get up at 5 because at 5 I get to have my time, my spiritual time, just to kind of refresh myself,
Mm-hmm.
get vision, and I can't tell you how often that time has helped either turn me in another direction, has helped me go again. It seems like it doesn't always seem like linear, like if you do this, this will help. But oh my goodness, just making sure that I'm investing that time to, just either pray or read the Bible to encourage me in the morning. So that's my
Yes.
first thing. I try, I have learned that is for me. I
Okay.
have to make sure I'm filled up. Second, I think another way I take care of myself is I've learned to exercise in the morning too. So I try to give
Yes.
these two things. So before anyone else has got anything, I have given it to myself. I have tithed it to myself.
Mm.
Um, and so by the time my kids get up, I've already done two things
Yes.
that have positioned me to have a great day, a
Yes.
great day.
Yes.
And then I've learned all my meetings go in the afternoon, like when I have no energy. Three
Okay.
o'clock, I try to put all the things. If you want to meet with me, it cannot be in the morning because
Okay.
I will then not have anything to give to myself.
Yes.
So, but by 3, I don't have anything much, so I can talk to you,
Yeah, right.
So we can meet in the afternoon. And so
Yes.
that has helped me a lot, I think, to make sure that I'm getting what I need because
Yes.
I have put what's important and the time when I have the most energy, I try to do that in that window and
I
try not to,
appreciate that because
yeah.
I think about some people who, have been on this journey and they've been incredible in so many different areas, but they did not succeed in the way they really wanted to because they gave away so much before they gave to themselves.
Hmm.
Like I can really think of so many people who truthfully gave away, always in meetings, mentoring, always answering this question and doing this presentation, but didn't do the main things they needed to do to achieve their primary goals. And so I
Yeah.
appreciate that you're saying you have figured out how to make it all work, how to make all the pieces
Yeah.
work. Yeah, for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, what I'm learning is that no one else can tell you what those goals are, right? No one else can tell you what those priorities are. You have to set them.
Yes.
They have to be values aligned.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, I know maybe a colleague might look over and be like, I don't know how she's spending her time, but I know that I'm spending my time in a way that fits with my
Yes. That's right.
values, right? What fits what's
Yes.
important to me.
Yes.
And I can go to bed at peace. And it helped because
Yes.
I've done what I needed to do.
Yes.
And those cannot be someone else's priorities. I know in
Yes.
academia, I feel like it's very easy to someone else to tell you what your priorities should be.
Yes.
And that's a quick way for you to be depressed and sad.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah, like,
Agreed.
wait a minute. What are your values?
Yes.
What's important to you? What do you
Yes.
want to leave this earth making sure you've done? Like, what matters
Yes.
to you? And I have found that it works for me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
good, like
Mm-hmm.
doing it this way.
I think
So
you found a way to do both, right? To do what matters for you, but to do it in a way that also helps you to check all the boxes you need to get where, you know what I mean? I think you found a way to make it happen. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I enjoy it. I really do. So yeah.
Well, Dr. Rachel, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. I've enjoyed, we talk all the time anyway, but I've
Yeah.
enjoyed this opportunity to chat with you and to hear about your grant writing experience and your tips. And I know we've talked about this some, especially towards the end, just about how you engage in a spirit-led grant writing proposal and how you try to take care of yourself on a daily basis. And I know that you have a coaching business where you are helping people get healthier. And I would love for you to tell my listeners about your coaching business and how they can connect with you if they are interested. I have participated some and it's amazing. And so I want to make sure our listeners have the opportunity to engage as well.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Trinette. You can find me on Instagram at Freedom Chaser Ray, RAE. And on my webpage is rachelwgoode.com. And on my site, I'm really helping folks. I know a lot of us have in this country, we all have a relationship with food. It's hard not to have some type of experience
Yes.
in a relationship with food. And so, but I'm really seeking to help people, I call it to live whole and free, right? And to move beyond, move to a space of freedom in your relationship with food. And so you have built the habits where you are learning not to have food dominate your life, right? And so some of us are either navigating more weight than we would want to carry, chronic disease that
Yes.
we are facing, or even just feeling shame and discouraged, right, about our bodies. And so recognizing it does not have to be that way. And there is a way to experience freedom. And I've gone through my own journey of losing and maintaining weight and then almost be realigned. I feel like I've gone through a realignment where I've seen what really matters and learning how to have a lifestyle of behaviors that keep me free. So, and I want to help other people to do that. So
Yeah,
you
and
are,
I feel like you're uniquely qualified to do this because you have both the research expertise where you study food and eating. You also have the clinical experience as a psychotherapist. You also have, as you said, the lived experience. So I really think you are uniquely qualified to help people on their journey with food. And so I want to encourage everyone to take a look at Dr. Rachel's social media pages. She has a blog also. She didn't tell you that, but she has a blog where she sends information out on a regular basis to help you on this journey.
yes, yes. Thank you, Dr. Trinette. Yes, thank you
Thank
so much.
you. Thank you so much for being here again. I want to encourage my listeners to please try to take at least one piece of advice from today's episode and incorporate it into your grant writing journey. Also, take a look at today's show notes. I'll be placing Dr. Rachel's contact information in the show notes. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. And that's a wrap on my two-part conversation with Dr. Rachel Goode. I hope you're walking away with a notebook full of tips and the confidence to tackle your next grant proposal. If you have enjoyed this two-part series, I'd love for you to share it with a friend or colleague who could benefit from Dr. Rachel's wisdom. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes because, y'all, we are only getting started. It's going to get better and better. As always, I thank you. I know you could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to tune in, and I appreciate it. See you next time. Love you. Thank you for listening to Grant Writing Made Clear. I hope today's episode gave you inspiration, confidence, and clear information that you can turn into action. Remember, you are not alone. There's a whole community here striving for the same impact. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a quick review to help more people find the show, and share this episode with others in your network. It really does make a difference. For more grant writing tips and resources, follow me on social media. Until next time, keep showing up, keep learning, and remain determined. I'll talk to you next time. Goodbye for now.